My spouse and I met at work and got married 8 years ago. Ever since we were newlyweds, we always talked about having children as soon as we could. But it was difficult for us to conceive, and 5 years into our marriage, we went for fertility tests at the hospital. It turned out the issue was with my husband, so he started attending a fertility clinic. He was prescribed medication, which he took regularly, but there was no significant improvement. I also took supplements to increase my chances of getting pregnant, and we both tried hard. But after 8 years of marriage, I never got pregnant. We were gradually becoming mentally exhausted. Slowly, our arguments increased, and our relationship grew cold. Then one day, while my husband was out, his coworker Brown called our home phone. "Hello, long time no see. This is Brown. Do you remember me?" "Oh yes, of course, I remember you. But why the sudden call?" "Don't tell me something has happened to my husband," I said, suddenly worried. But then Brown told me something I never imagined. "John, he's having an affair." "What? What do you mean?" I decided to meet with Brown to hear the full story. "I'm sorry it was so sudden. I just couldn't stand by any longer," he told me. He explained that John was having an affair with a new employee at their company. I overheard it. I went back to the office at night to pick up something I forgot, and I found John and Smith there alone, talking about going on a trip together on their next day off. I thought it was bad and hurried out of the office. Since then, Brown had been suspecting my husband of cheating. Later, he happened to be at a seminar with both of them and secretly kept an eye on my husband and this woman. After a social gathering, he followed them as they left together and entered a hotel arm in arm. Here is a photo from that time. Brown zoomed in on a photo on his cell phone, showing my husband and a young woman entering a hotel arm in arm. The side profile in the picture was unmistakably my husband's, and the woman next to him was clinging close to him. According to him, my husband has been meeting her under the guise of working late or being on business trips. Brown has been an acquaintance of both my husband and me since before we got married. He wouldn't lie to me, although I didn't want to believe it. Considering our recent strained relationship, it seemed plausible. Since then, I've met with Brown frequently for advice. I even told him about my husband's infertility issues. Brown listened attentively as I pondered over what to do about my marriage moving forward. "John, your wife is so beautiful. It's unbelievable that you would cheat. There's evidence. You might want to start preparing for a divorce," Brown advised. That day, I was drunk. I heard from my husband that he was going on a business trip and would be away, but he must have been out with that woman from the photo. Brown thought so too. It's so frustrating. I don't remember much from that night because I drank too much. When I woke up, I was lying on a hotel bed. I had a message from Brown on my phone. He said he had drunk so much that he lost his memory and stayed at the same hotel, and he had already headed to the office. Then something surprising happened. A few weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant. That night, I had suspected it might be the case. The child is likely Brown's. I could keep this a secret and pretend it's my husband's child, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to lie. Also, there was a feeling of revenge for my husband's infidelity. Either way, I couldn't see myself being happy staying with my husband. When I told Brown about it, he immediately suggested I leave my husband and come to live at his place. So I brought up divorce. I cheated. I can't stay with you anymore. Let's separate. I'm pregnant, I said, looking at the divorce papers I presented. My husband stared at me in despair. You cheated too, right? What are you talking about? Me cheating and you're pregnant? What do you mean? He asked. That's what it means. So it's because I can't get you pregnant, my husband murmured. He stared at the divorce papers in his hands. Afterward, we submitted the divorce papers to the city hall, and I moved my belongings to Brown's apartment. After some time, Brown, who was initially kind, began to grow irritated with the baby's crying and started to become violent towards me. Unable to endure it any longer, I left him. When our daughter turned 2, I returned to my parents' home with her. Why did it all turn out like this? I was blessed with a child, but in the end, I couldn't have a happy family. Grandchildren really are precious, aren't they? My mom said. Fortunately, my parents adored their granddaughter. I started working at a local supermarket during the day while my mom looked after my daughter. The standing job was very tough at first, and I came home exhausted every day. But seeing my daughter's adorable smile always soothed me. Oh, don't scratch so much. It'll leave marks, I would say. My daughter was being treated for severe eczema and went to the hospital regularly, but her symptoms hardly improved. I need to find a gentle soap for her skin. Oh, this might be a good one. One time I found a product online called Handable Soap. It's ideal for eczema-prone skin, and the reviews are good too. Maybe I should try this. I immediately ordered the soap online. When the soap arrived and we tried it, my daughter's skin condition improved significantly. I bought the soap repeatedly too, then 3 bars at a time. I also wrote a thank you email to the store. Hello, since using your soap, my daughter's eczema has improved. Thank you so much. In the mail, I included a message of gratitude along with photos of my daughter before and after using the soap. One day, I received a reply from the store. They said my email was very encouraging. I continued using the soap for my daughter. Years passed, and my daughter turned 5. She began to ask, "Why don't we have a dad at home?" I didn't want her to meet Brown, fearing he would become violent again. He might even try to take her back. I think it's better to assume that man is gone. That's why I told my daughter, Daddy has gone to heaven. I wanted to forget all about Brown. Remarrying him after divorcing John was a mistake. Now that's how I feel. It's not that I grew to hate John. It's just he cheated. But maybe the reason John cheated was partly my fault. I think I might have pressured him too much because we couldn't have children. We should have tried to meet halfway and talk things through. But it's too late now to think about starting over with him. I haven't been in contact with him at all since the divorce. I heard that after our divorce, he quit his job and moved somewhere else. I wonder what he is doing now and where he is. But even if we met again, I couldn't forgive what he did, and he wouldn't forgive me either. While contemplating these things, the days went by. One day, my daughter and I went on a hot springs trip with my parents by car. My father drove us across the state line, enjoying the drive along the way. We stopped at a certain roadside station. "Oh, this place is—" I said it out loud without thinking. This roadside station housed the shop where I bought the soap. It was truly a coincidence. I wanted to meet the shop owner in person to express my gratitude. So I took my daughter's hand and headed inside the building. On the opposite side of the food section, which displayed locally grown vegetables and fruits. There was a sign for handable soap across from an ice cream shop. I entered the small store. Apart from soaps, the shop also sold herbal teas and potpourri. Well, welcome, a familiar voice greeted my daughter and me. When I looked up, there was John, my ex-husband, standing there. I never thought we would meet here. John looked at me in surprise. Mary? John? We stood there in silence for a while. Then my daughter asked, Mommy, who is this man? This person is someone Mommy knows. It's been a while. Mary, can we talk for a bit? John said. So I nodded. I left my daughter with my parents and went into the cafe next door. It had been 6 years since we parted. His face had a few more wrinkles, and some gray hairs were appearing. We took a seat and ordered hot coffees. I had no idea you were the person at that store. As I started the conversation, he gave a shy smile. I left the corporate world and started helping out with a friend's farm while launching my own business. It's been well received online, and it's making a decent profit. I was surprised when I saw your order come through, and here I was sending you an email without even knowing it was you. I was happy to receive it. But I never expected you to actually visit the store. I just happened to pass by and decided to stop in, he told me. He explained that after our divorce, he was so shocked that he couldn't work for a while. But when he bravely moved to a vacant house in the countryside, the neighbors were all very kind, and one of them taught him farming. Helping with the farm work, his emotional wounds began to heal. Now he rents a corner of that farm to grow herbs and sell soaps and herbal teas. Then he asked, How's Brown? I left him. When I told him, he was surprised. I explained that I had suffered domestic violence from Brown. I never would have guessed he could do something like that. And you didn't seem like someone who would cheat. John looked astonished. What are you talking about with cheating? What do you mean you were cheating, weren't you? No, I wasn't. It seems there's a misunderstanding. I heard it from Brown. He told me you were cheating with a new employee named Smith, lying about working late and going on business trips. I even saw the photos. That's a lie. I didn't do such a thing, John exclaimed. But I saw the photo of you entering a hotel. Brown took it after following you, saying you both worked together. Oh, that time everyone from the company was staying at the same business hotel, and Brown was there too. She was really drunk, and it was a tough situation, John explained. If what John is saying is true, then Brown was lying. Why would he do that? He probably lied because he wanted you for himself. He wanted us to break up. I heard after I left the company that Brown liked Smith and asked her out, but she rejected him. At that time, there were rumors within the company that Smith liked me, but I never heard anything from her personally, John explained. So, you're saying I was deceived. What a revelation. I believed Brown's lies and ended up bearing his child. How naive I was. Thinking about it makes me feel so ashamed, pathetic, frustrated, and I owe John an apology. Tears started to come. I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. Don't cry, he says, offering a handkerchief. If the misunderstanding is cleared up, that's enough for me. Hey, would you consider starting over with me? At his words, I looked up and met his eyes. You would forgive me? I asked. When you asked for a divorce, I thought if you had someone else, there was nothing I could do. I gave up. But now that you're not with Brown, I won't hold back. Let's live together, all three of us. Hot tears streamed down my cheeks one after another. I wiped them with a handkerchief as he led me and said, "Please, let's do that later." We did a DNA test, and it turned out that the child was not Brown's, but John's. When I told John everything, he accepted it all. My daughter was able to return to a real father. After that, I quit my job at the supermarket and moved with my daughter to John's house. "Dad, this herb smells really good, doesn't it?" Now, my daughter enjoys helping with soap making, and I am pregnant with our second child. "Let's turn this place into a big herb garden for our family of 4, John suggested. "That sounds great," I agreed. "Yeah," my daughter exclaimed. John smiled at us, his hands